Throughout history, there have been people who have committed some of the most heinous crimes fathomable. For those crimes, they have been convicted and sentenced to death. Welcome to Death Row Executions, where we take a look into the lives of society's worst offenders. And now, your host, Air.
Elizabeth and Charles Morva were a long-time married couple living in Midlothian, Virginia, and were immigrants from Hungary. They had a daughter by the name of Emily and 3 boys, 2 of which were William and Michael. William Charles Morva was a dual U.S.-Hungarian citizen who was born on February 9, 1982. To the outside world, his father Charles was a friendly, personable man who worked as a substitute teacher and a barista for a coffee shop. But at home, behind closed doors, he was a completely different man. Elizabeth went on record and said that her husband had a short temper and would overreact for minor issues. He would frequently hit his children and always had the final say. He was deeply passionate about religion and politics, so these were also frequent topics he got angry about. On top of Charles feeling the need to always be in control, he was not supportive and would constantly criticize and insult his children. Throughout elementary school, William lacked motivation, had poor attention skills, and would miss school a lot due to being sick. It was confirmed by his mother Elizabeth that William was absent due to frequent sinus infections and his issues with irritable bowel syndrome. William claimed that he felt he was very intelligent, but throughout elementary school and middle school, he failed majority of his classes. Despite his failing grades, he was never evaluated, never tested, and they allowed him to continue on to the next grade with no issues. He did have friends, but was shy and preferred to be alone. When he socialized with friends, they later testified that he was very caring and would often greet them with hugs. They also said he was never violent and always stood up for minorities when they were picked on. He was very appreciative of nature and animals, and overall, many people had positive things to say about him. When William turned 14 years old, his father Charles retired and moved his family from Midlothian to Blacksburg, Virginia. William was able to stay out of trouble and refrain from fighting and getting into drugs or alcohol, but continued to fail his classes. Now, 18 years old and a senior in high school, his guidance counselor sent a note home, and a portion of the note read, "He is a bright and likable young man. His free spirit type personality did not mesh with the school setting." William subsequently dropped out his senior year. His mother suggested that he seek help and get a therapist, but he was angered by the suggestion, and his mother never pressed the issue again. His parents moved to Richmond, and he asked if he could stay behind to work, and his parents agreed. He mostly spent weeks at a time camping instead of working, though. William was close with his siblings, but his relationship with his father was a constant struggle, and they always butt heads. He began to grow an attitude that he just wouldn't be controlled by his father anymore. Their failing relationship came to an end when Charles was diagnosed with cancer and ended up dying in April of 2004. When William attended the funeral, he came with no shoes on, clothes that were not too clean, and his mother said that his behavior was very off. Instead of focusing on his father, he began to start conversations about Native Americans and would get upset if he felt someone was not listening to him. No one was able to fully understand him as he rambled on about how in this world there was no good or bad. Emily Morva said that after the death of their father, William grew more and more paranoid, and he quote-unquote looked and acted like a rabid dog. He did live with his sister for a short while, but she ended up kicking him out due to his behavior. At this point, William became a survivalist. He lived off the land and was always seen without any shoes on. It was also the first time he claimed his health improved, and he no longer struggled with IBS or constipation because he began to eat only raw meat, fruit he found on trees, or pine cones. With no permanent shelter to live in, he mostly slept in the woods, but on occasion would stay with a friend. He would always invite friends to spend months out in the wilderness with him, but they always denied the invite. When in town, he would bum around near the Virginia Tech community and was known to many as Barefoot Will. He was a chill person to many, and quite a few people in the community went on to say that although he was a cool person, they only conversed with him to make him feel better or to humor him. Majority of his conversations were like that of his father's, but just about different topics. They felt that he was immature with a big ego, who felt that everything he said was right. Over the next few years, William found himself getting into trouble. One day, he was walking around in town and spotted a man by the name of Kevin Grizzard who was getting beat up by two guys who attended the same high school as William. William saved Kevin and even spoke as a witness during trial in support of him. Because of this, Kevin and William became close friends, and William even recruited Kevin to help him and his brother Michael Morva with their illegal activity. William had purchased a gun and would brag about how easy it was to disable alarms with magnets. William and Michael would also frequently break into ATM machines, and after a while, police started to crack down on William hanging out in the Virginia Tech area and would kick him out of certain buildings. In early 2006, William reached out to Kevin informing him of a dirty job that would require his car. William said he had a shotgun and would not be able to take the bus, so Kevin agreed to tag along with William and Michael. On the day of the planned robbery, William called Kevin and told him he no longer needed a ride because someone else was going to provide the transportation. He and his brother then went to an establishment called Food Time, which was located behind a Kroger. Kevin lived in walking distance, so after the crime, William walked to Kevin's house, and Kevin drove him back to the scene of the crime to pick up the stolen goods. Despite having robbed other locations with William before, Kevin said that he would have talked William out of robbing Food Time, and he also expressed that he told William he was unhappy with him stealing. William replied by telling him it was his family's fault for cutting him off financially, and he did what needed to be done. William wasn't free for long, and by summer of 2006, William and his brother Michael were both locked up at Montgomery County Jail. William was charged with attempted burglary, attempted robbery, conspiracy to commit burglary, and use of a firearm. After months of being in jail and still no trial, William grew impatient and angry. He wrote a letter to his mother saying, "I will kick an unarmed guard in the neck and make him drop. Then I'll stomp him until he is dead as I'll be." William then conspired with his brother Michael on an escape plan, and it was set to take place when trial began. Trial was scheduled for August 23, 2006, and late night on August 19th, William claimed that he sprained his ankle and wrist, so he needed medical attention fast. The prison could not take him that evening, but they did follow up the very next morning on August 20th by taking him to Montgomery Regional Hospital. Escorting William to his room, along with hospital staff, was Deputy Russell Quessenberry, who was armed with a pistol on his right side. Deputy Russell noticed that William did not follow directions when he was instructed to walk on the deputy's left side. The nurse accompanying them was Nurse Melissa Epperly, and she said that William's behavior was off, and she felt as if he was faking a sprained ankle because the limping would come and go. Not able to take the deputy's weapon on the way to his room, William had to think fast. He asked to use the bathroom, then broke off a metal toilet paper container, opened the bathroom door, and knocked Deputy Russell in the head with it, knocking him out unconscious. A security guard working for the hospital, Derek McFarland, heard the commotion and tried to assist Deputy Russell. When Derek was in range, William grabbed the pistol that Deputy Russell was carrying and shot Security Officer Derek even though his hands were up in the air, surrendering to William. He was struck in the face, and although he worked at the hospital, they were unable to treat his wounds in time to save his life. William was able to escape by shooting the locked electronic emergency room doors and went on the run. A manhunt began, and media released a photo of him asking for help to identify him. Police got tips and ended up searching for William at the Virginia Tech campus, the Squires Student Center, and then the Huckleberry Trail that was near campus. Virginia Tech canceled all classes, and a witness by the name of Andrew Duncan, who was on Huckleberry Trail, saw William and the first responding officer, Corporal Eric Sutphin. Corporal Eric had been involved in a shooting 6 months prior, and his partner was killed, so the traumatic experience caused him to quit the police force. He was making good money as a salesman, but decided to join the force again because it was his passion. The witness Andrew had walked away from Corporal Eric and William, but heard gunshots minutes later. Another witness by the name of David Carter, who lived close by, was actually able to witness the murder of Corporal Eric. William had snuck up behind him and shot him in the back of the head. The first person to discover Corporal Eric Sutphin was Officer Brian Rowe. He noticed that his gun was still on his persons, so he knew William still had a different gun on him. He took Corporal Eric's gun and continued to search for William. Finally, at 3:36 p.m. that same day, William was found lying in a ditch 150 yards away from where he killed Corporal Eric. He claimed that he was unarmed, but after being arrested by Officer Ryan Haidt, he found Deputy Russell Quessenberry's gun on him. The gun was later tested and William's DNA was on the trigger and handle. William's trial began in March of 2008 and it only lasted 8 days. He was convicted of assault and battery on Deputy Russell Quessenberry, escape with force by a prisoner, and 2 capital murder charges for killing the security guard, Derek McFarland, and Corporal Eric Sutphin, and 2 counts of using a firearm for murder. During trial, many people from William's childhood, along with members of the community, testified that they believed he was a good man and would not reoffend. William was also tested, and multiple doctors concluded that William suffered from personality disorder, mixed personality disorder with signs of schizophrenia, narcissism, and paranoia. One doctor, Dr. Dolan, said that although William suffered from these issues, they were not extreme mental or emotional disturbances at the time of the offenses, or that it significantly impaired William's capacity. Even though he made these remarks, he did believe that it warranted William being saved from the death sentence. Prosecutors took his words and felt otherwise. The jury was also made aware of the fact that schizophrenia ran in the Morva family, starting with his grandmother. One of William's siblings, who remain unidentified during trial, had it, and another sibling suffered from OCD and depression. They also presented facts that several of his nieces and nephews suffered from OCD and depression as well. Sentencing came on August 25, 2008, and after finding William guilty, he was sentenced to death. William did try to appeal on multiple occasions, with one of the main factors being his mental health. At one point, the U.S. Supreme Court did allow further testing, but more than one doctor said they did not have adequate information to assess his childhood trauma due to the fact they could not discern whether or not what was being told was true or not. In a response to his appeal, the United States District Judge Michael Urbanski responded by saying, "In short, there is no indication that Morva's discovery and other requests in the state habeas proceedings would have led to material evidence that could have in any respect altered the outcome of Morva's trial. Rather, the discovery sought by Morva is either speculative or cumulative of the testimony presented trial." Given the voluminous record in this case, the Supreme Court of Virginia did not act unreasonably in declining to permit the additional discovery sought by Morva, authorize a new mental health evaluation, or conduct a hearing. William also tried to assert that the jury did not understand how to impose the death penalty on certain crimes, but Judge Michael asserted that the jury knew to impose a death sentence if a crime surpassed being especially heinous, atrocious, or cruel, and the jury believed his crimes fit that description. The original execution date was set for October 21, 2008, but after previous successful appeals, it was rescheduled. The new execution date was set for July 6, 2017, and in the state of Virginia, death row inmates are allowed to keep their last meals secret from the press, so William chose not to disclose what he had for his last meal. Many protesters were outside of the prison protesting, and some of the victims' children also wanted William to be granted clemency. They tried reaching out to the governor, but he refused a last-minute stay. Prosecutor Mary Petit said, "I appreciate the governor's acknowledgement that whether or not you believe in the death penalty, it is the law of our Commonwealth, and that as government officials we have taken an oath to uphold the laws enacted by the lawfully elected representatives of the people." William was executed by method of lethal injection and was pronounced dead at 9:15 p.m. William's brother Michael was convicted for conspiracy in 2008 because they felt he helped his brother escape. The jail had phone records of the brothers, and they were speaking of a Plan B. The trial lasted only 2 days, but on the first day of trial, Michael had bashed his head in his cell, so he walked into the courtroom in cuffs, a bloody white shirt, and a busted face. He never testified at his brother's trial, but for his own trial, he testified for 10 minutes expressing his innocence. He was ultimately found guilty and was angered by his sentence, so he shouted profanities as he was leaving the courtroom. He has since been released from prison and is currently looking for work as an entertainer. Thank you all for watching another episode of Death Row Executions. I would like to give a shout out to Eliza and Carla. Thank you for becoming patrons on my Patreon. If any of you are willing to support the channel in a different way, please click the link in my description box below. Also, if you made it this far, please give the video a like for me and drop a comment in the comment section. Thank you everyone, and have a good day.